bearing on an 09 Ranger. I don't think I've done a wheel bearing on this new of a car, so hopefully I know what I'm doing. Okay, so first thing you always start off with taking off the caliper bolts, which I put over here. I already took them out. They're 15s. They're put in there by Loctite, so make sure that you have a big breaker bar to break these loose. Otherwise they're going to be a pain in the ass. So rotors come off, calipers come off. I don't advise to hang the calipers, but it's not that big of a deal if you do. Next step is taking this off, which you can either use a giant tool like this, or probably a better idea is to chisel this cover off. Looks like someone may have packed them. Then whenever you're working on wheel bearings, you want to make sure they're using a clean workspace. All pull a cart. Anytime you get metal or debris in this area, it can cause the bearings to fail. Make sure you get a clean rag, put it where you're working. This thing is pretty loose in there. It caused this tire to wear all the way down to the metal. Got to take this cotter pin out. Looks like it's pretty straightforward. Somebody had cut it. Anytime you're here, pull this cover. Then you're going to want to get a bolt, but you see how loose it is already. I think somebody's been in here. Either way, we're still going to rebuild it because it was real loose. This is on a two-wheel drive truck. 4x4s don't have bearing, serviceable bearings. They have hubs built in that you just remove and replace. Once you get it loose, just take this cover off. Right here, there's one bearing. You come off. And then you have this dust seal, which you should replace, but I'm not gonna because nobody has time for that. Just wipe it off. Try and get it as clean as you can. The easiest way I've found to take these seals out without any issues is put this nut back on. Make sure to thread it in a little bit if you can. A photographer, dude. Just be like, action!
Action.
Okay, so you have the nut in here. It's held in. You can just let this rotor hang down on it. So that way when you pull it off, you pull everything together. Once all this is together, this seal should still be intact, should be fine. It just pops it right out. Same thing with this bearing. You can leave the nut on there for now. The next step is to go over here. Get our bearing packer. I do not advise doing this without one of these. If you don't have one of these, you should have a shop do it for you because your bearings are gonna get real hot and they're gonna get damaged. So anytime you do this, Put this into the packer. Make sure the packer's full of grease, obviously. Put it down. All you're going to do is use your palm. Press down on here with your body weight for a few seconds. Then once you're done, you pull it back out. It's kind of messy. As you can see, you're going to have some grease that pops out of the insides of the bearing. That's what you want. Make sure to cover everything with grease. Put it there, you're done. That one's done. Go to the inner bearing. Do the same thing. Put the packer on there, use your palm. A few seconds. Pop it out. Pull it out. Make sure that you have a little bit of grease that came through, which it did. Pop it back in. Pretty simple. Make sure everything is covered. You don't want to leave anything uncovered. Good there. After this, you're probably going to need a new set of gloves. Next step, take the nut back off. I'm going to start putting this back in. Want this here. Usually you're going to clean this out, but if the bearing's a little bit loose, don't worry about it. The other time you clean it out is if you reface these rotors, which we're not doing today. If you reface the rotors, obviously there's going to be metal everywhere, so you want to make sure that's good and clean. But we're not doing any of that stuff. We're just packing them. Not a huge deal. Try and get my gloves as clean as possible. It's not going to be very possible. And the next step I do, which sometimes works, sometimes doesn't, is tap this bearing back in, use something soft, tap back in, seals good, and then always want to make sure you re-lubricate this shaft. What I'm going to do is clean it off first because I see some metal on there. You don't want there to be any metal. Clean it off. Nice and smooth. Get a cleaner rag. Wipe it down again. Some people will say use brake clean. I don't worry about it. As long as it's clean, you're good. Next step, get some of this leftover grease. Lube this stuff again. Just give it one clean layer. Lubricate the threads too. Make sure those aren't going to cross thread or get damaged. Once you're done there, then you're going to get every other rag that you have just destroyed. But that's okay, that's part of the job. I need more rags because my hands are a mess. Okay, so now you're pretty much ready to go. Put it back together. I'll show you how we tighten it up. So as you can see, it fits in there pretty solid. You have a good amount of grease in there already. Put this back in, the smaller tapered end in first, obviously. Next step, put this washer back in. Put it down there. Then you're going to want to go with the nut. Goes on there easily. That grease definitely helps it. And I don't even know what size nut this is because I could loosen it by hand because it was so loose. So once you find the right size on an 09 Ranger, it's 27 millimeter. All you gotta do, I tighten it all the way down. spin it a couple times. Then once I'm done, I loosen it back up, tighten it only until it stops, and then I do it a little bit further. I don't know what service procedure explains that, but that's how I do it. So here, you want to get a new cotter pin in there. Right, Robert?
Right. You can reuse the old cotter pin.
It's good to use the old cotter pin if it's somebody you really don't like. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to put it through there. I want to make sure this stuff is out of the way so you can get this cap back on. Here, and then you want to cut this out of the way. And then the last step is to cap that ass. I don't know if YouTube likes cursing. Ass isn't a bad word. You're on there. No more loosey-goosey. And you're all good.